Welcome to Happy Hour with
Ruth.
and Roxanne.
Actually, it's Roxy, but we'll let
It's
her away
Roxy.
with Roxy because last week I forgot my name. So you know, we can let that go.
Yep, it happens.
So what are we drinking today, Roxanne?
Oh, what are we drinking today? We are drinking, can you see that label?
Can you pronounce it?
Because
I'm not sure.
Veuve Clicquot. The answer is no, I cannot pronounce
Okay, let's see. Veuve. Oh gosh, and I know this. Veuve. It's really good champagne. That's all you need to know. And it actually was a gift. We had a Paris dinner party, and one of our lovely guests who lives here, Beverly, brought it with her for us, which was very nice. And there was too many people to do then, but we're opening it today because why, Roxanne?
Well, we're having a little bit of a celebration. Cheers. Because I can't tell you, but I will.
We can't tell you why, but we're having fun.
We're having fun. But I'll give you a bit of backstory. So people who are writers and who are probably people who are in other creative endeavors don't get a lot of feedback. So we learn, hopefully, if you're in a really good group, which I have always been, you learn to celebrate the things that you can. So when I was first writing, we would celebrate, you finished a manuscript, yay, have a candy. You sent in your first manuscript, woo, that's a big deal. You got your first rejection, okay? Rejections really suck. However, they are a necessary part of the journey. Okay, you get your first rejection, awesome. Then you get your first request for a partial. Ooh, great, celebrate that. Then you sell your first book. So you're always leveling up and you're celebrating.
Just so you know, none of us know what partials are.
A partial manuscript. So you maybe someone says, ooh, I like your idea for a book. Can you send me the first 3 chapters? And you're like, so every little bit that you do, you celebrate, which is a really good way to live. I have not done this particularly well, but this week I got some good news about some of my books. So I will tell you more when I can. But for now, we're celebrating that.
We are celebrating it, and we will have lots to say when Roxanne can share the news. And I should pretend I don't know, but I know because I am always sitting beside her for things. So
gotta tell somebody.
Yes, but yes. So that's why today is a Bubbles Day, because we're celebrating, and I think that's a really good start to it. Is to appreciate all of it, to celebrate all of it.
Yeah,
you know, and you see lots online now that talk about use the good dishes.
Yeah.
Buy the shoes. I don't think I should buy any more shoes. But, you know, there's all sorts of stuff, right?
Should is not part of this equation.
But there's all sorts of stuff, I think, that we let go by that is worth celebrating. And and I'm going to forget who said it, but I use it a lot. And someone said, you know, you can go through life where nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. and the fact is, everything is a miracle. Like the fact that we're here is a bit of a miracle, right?
It is. It is. And sorry, still have
she
a bit
really
of the virus.
Is better though.
Yeah, much better. And that's a really it's a bit like your habit of doing gratefuls every morning, right? Yep. It's looking at life from a lens of celebration. What is the great stuff that's happened lately? Focusing on that, and you see what you're looking for.
Yep, that's exactly. You find what you're looking for. And the flip side to it is we all wake up, and one of the things I actually had on a list to maybe talk about this week was cranky pants, because I've had cranky pants lately.
She really has.
But the fact is, you can wallow in it, or you can decide to look around for one good thing and focus on that for a minute. And that's what helps take you out of it. And especially when we're talking about this weather, right? Yeah. We're in the middle of January. I mean,
we have 8 feet of snow outside.
Yeah. Oh, might not be 8 feet, but it's a lot. 8. It's so much that our dogs don't want to go out, and one of my dogs loves snow, but it's too much.
We can't get out the back. Yeah. We can't get out the back. We didn't shovel it, and now there's a layer of ice on top of it. So
yeah, it's ugly out there. And I think when you find the things, you know, like the podcast, like we get to share a nice bottle of champagne to celebrate something, right? There's always something you can find that's good, including that I can hear Scruffy off in the corner killing a stuffy, and that might be something for him to celebrate.
He really is. He's enjoying that.
Yep. So first off, what we want to say is thank you for everybody who reached out and who sent letters, and we will put the letters up on the blog, and we're going to do a category that's the things that you will send us that you want us to put up there. But also the people that just made comments, right? That came to us and said, hey, I watched it and I really like this, and hey, have you thought about this? And I think it's been really it's been really rewarding to see people even just watch, mostly because they know us right now, but to watch with enough attention that they're coming back and telling us things, right? Which is really cool.
It is really cool. It's delightful. So absolutely, thank you to everyone who's watched and to those of you who've given feedback. We love the feedback.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's really humbling, actually.
It really is, and we appreciate that you're doing it, and we promise we are getting better as we go. And I've had a couple of people want us to do this live so there could be interaction, and we will get there. We're not there yet, but we will get there. Right now we tape a week ahead and then we upload it because it takes that long to edit it and for us to write the show notes and do the things. But eventually we'll throw in some live ones in there because that's a natural progression of something.
Yeah. But if that's what people want, then we will try to do that.
We will figure it out.
Yeah.
But the other thing I really liked was a couple of people mentioned that they really appreciated that we talked about therapy and we talked a little bit about mental health and about destigmatizing it and that kind of thing. And I think that's a really important thing and will probably become a little bit of a pillar because we talk about, that we're both introverts and we can both be anxious and, that I have a committee in my head. But I think it's really important that we keep talking about that. And I think that's what some of the people that said it to you is because the more each of us talk about it in normal terms and we share what we go through, the more that those out there who are maybe thinking they're alone or maybe thinking they're too different, because honestly, we're all different, right? And I celebrate the fact that we recognize neurodivergence now, because not everybody, like I can remember being in school, I was really great at English and geography and social studies and those things, and I sucked at math and science. Now, they kept trying to push me into taking those things instead of finding a way. Had I realized the science in cooking, right? The science in baking is like off the hook, right? Even we work with a biotech company in my day job, and understanding that science, I am fascinated by it and I like it, but I never got taught the practical application. Same as math. If I could have understood, well, math will be really good, especially when you're trying to double or half a recipe, because, but they didn't give me practical applications. And so I think one of the things is when you talk about all of these things. So they were trying to put this square peg into a round hole for me when it came to science and math. And I think people learn differently. And so now it's like when one of our clients, is talking about how they do interviews when they bring people on, because if usually it's a panel interview, but if somebody is neurodivergent, they have the option. They put forward an option to say, if you'd prefer, we could do it this way, right? Which is really awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like talk about inclusive.
Well, that is really interesting because the interview scenario, some people are really good at. I used to do the HR for the company that my husband and I owned. And some people are very good at interviews and they're very terrible at their job, or the other way around. You cannot tell a lot from an interview. And it doesn't matter how many courses you take on how to do a good interview, what questions to ask, what color would you be if you were on the rainbow? Like there's so many things that you can try, but interviews are not the best. They're just not the best way to do it for a lot of people. So that's really interesting, and especially people who are neurodivergent.
Yeah, and I think that's where the world is going. And I think if we can nudge it along between us and our happy hour crew, if we all just keep talking about it in an average way within conversations, because it doesn't have to be this big statement. It's the same as the celebration. Growing up, it used to have, it's a birthday and anniversary. It's a big thing, right? Although my mom was good about using the good dishes. She was very good about those kind of things. But these days it's like that. It's like, it's these one-on-one organic things that happen that make it matter.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm really grateful that people said that that resonated with them. And you had somebody say, it's like, wow, I think that's that could be a category for you, right? And I think as much as we don't know, we can also learn together. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Because I have to say, one of the things I was going to put on my list to talk about today was the history of the disco ball. So we could always do the different kinds of therapy that's out there and stuff too. Along with the fun happy hour stuff, it could always be, because I know for me, I've done all sorts of stuff, tapping,
Mhm.
which is a form of therapy, right? It's not psychology.
Yeah.
But it's a form of therapy. And so it's things like that, I think, when you become aware of them,
Mhm.
and maybe because tapping isn't for everybody,
Yeah.
but also going into an office with a psychiatrist isn't for everybody
Right.
either, right?
Yeah.
So you find your things.
Yeah, yeah, and that's been an ongoing theme for me too throughout my life, as I've talked with people, because I've struggled with various things that I realize now were largely normal parts of the journey of life that I was on at the
Yeah.
time. Challenges that maybe I didn't have support that would have really helped at the time, but I ended up finding so many people, especially when I was a young mother, had children at home, and so many of the friends that I would talk to, eventually, if we got to a safe enough place, we would end up touching on those things. How are you doing? What's your level of overwhelm? How are you feeling about this, that, the other aspect of your life? And so many people would express how difficult life was for them at the time, but they were hesitant to do that.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said, I am having the black dogs are at my brain this week, it is really bad, that that gave them permission to also say, oh, wow, okay, what's that, and how, and once you talk about it with someone else, you don't feel so alone in it. You feel more normal about it.
Yeah, and I think that's just it. I think part of it, for all of it, like whether it's stress at work or the fact, and we'll talk about this later, decluttering, because I appear to be having a challenge with that. But I think once you normalize it a bit, and there's lots going on in the world that's being normalized that I think shouldn't be normalized, but there's also things like this, and you say, the black dogs were at my brain. I would say I'm in the swamp. So we have these phrases, right? And I think that's just it, and that's why it's so good. Like, I know social media gets a really sort of bad rap, except it's given us this. There's all sorts of new mother groups and mothers of preteen groups and all these groups now where maybe you can find like-minded people, you can find kindred spirits, right?
Exactly.
And have the conversation, and not everybody had that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Social media is a tool.
Yeah.
Right. It's a tool. I think about it like a place to go.
Yeah.
Right. And you can use it in ways that are great. You can use it in ways that are harmful, and you can let it overwhelm you or challenge you or dictate your life. Yeah. Or you can use it as a healthy expression. Manage it.
It's not unlike, honestly, a really good knife. Right? You can use it to cut beautiful bread, or you can use it to stab somebody. And at the end of the day, and this does not go to the gun thing, people, because that's not how the gun works. But it's one of those things where it's like social media. I mean, there are some people that are really using it to do bad things in the world. And I'm not just talking about, the scammers and all of that. There are people that are spreading lies and doing things. But then there are other people that are really using it. Like I've seen on just our little, in our bigger community in the Fraser Valley, where people have come on, and it's really clear that they are not scammers. And it's like, hey, does anybody have any odd jobs? Because I'm 3 days away from payday, and I'm short, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then people are like, hey, what do you need? Is it food? Because I've got this. I can drop it by. Can I drive you to work if you don't have gas for your car? Or people will be like, hey, I haven't done this and I want to get my yard done. I've only got $50 for you. Yeah. But the community comes together, and that's and of course there's scammers that come on there, and that you see that, except they get weeded out pretty well at least in this group. And yet here is this opportunity to use social media for good, right? And I think that's what we're trying to do too. Yeah. Right? Okay, so
it's a communication tool, and communication cuts
and
both
any
ways.
tool.
Yeah.
Not guns. Just saying. Nobody can get shot in your house if you don't have a gun. And I'm not saying, I think responsible gun ownership is fine. Nobody needs an AK-47, just saying, or anything like that.
Correct.
You don't need a weapon of war that's made to kill people. Yep. So that's just my little PSA for today, and we might get trolls because of it, but I fully believe, I think responsible gun ownership is fine. Nobody needs an AK-47 or anything like that. Anyway, so let's go on to nicer things. Roxanne, what do you have to talk about?
What do I have to talk to? What did I add to
we have
the list?
Notes. See how professional we're getting?
Yeah.
Here.
Of course, I didn't print mine out, so that's how professional I am right now. Oh, okay. So I am back on the treadmill. So I have this little tool in my office called a walking pad, which is an under the desk treadmill, and it folds. So I bought this in April of 2023, and I used it very regularly. Then in September, I got kind of on this kick where I was like, okay, I got to like I've been exercising with the headset, the MetaQuest.
Yep.
Oculus MetaQuest.
Virtual reality headset.
Yep. Virtual reality headset using Supernatural. Been exercising with that, and I was doing all my steps. I was getting like 20,000 steps some days, and then my foot started to hurt. And I was like, why is my foot hurting? What? This is so weird. Why is my foot hurting? What could it be? What could it be? So I realized, okay, maybe I just need to dial it back here a little bit, old lady. So I did that, but I'm back on it now again. And this thing is amazing. It folds up, it gets out of the way, and I can be at my desk and I can do things and still move, because it's amazing the amount of health, what just a small amount of movement does for
the
your
benefits,
body.
right?
Yeah. When you're sitting and you're like, this, you guys, so many people have sedentary jobs. It's really, really hard to stay active when you work at a computer. But just moving made a difference in my shoulders and my hips. So yeah, we'll see if I can control myself and not
hurt yourself,
whatever is bugging my foot. So anyway, so I'm very happy about that.
But that's a really good thing, and that you got one that works, because I think sometimes when we all go online, and we will start, putting up links to things and stuff, and so that and we're never going to tell you. I mean, full transparency, it would be nice if one day we could monetize this so that it helps to pay for things like the lights and all the things and stuff.
For sure.
But the other thing is, when we recommend something, and right now we will absolutely recommend things and give you links in the show notes to things, but we're only going to recommend them if they really work. Because sometimes you look at those things online and then you see reviews and you don't know, because some reviews are like, changed my life, like you, and others are like, quit working after 3 days. Exactly. Except again, reviews online are dodgy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to do so much research to validate whether the review is real.
I read so many reviews before I bought this walking pad, and I think it was about $600. It's not a huge investment in terms of what exercise equipment costs,
or what a gym membership costs that you didn't go to. Right.
I'll tell you that for sure. But it was really funny because some of the reviews were, this thing stopped working after X number of days. No customer support, blah blah blah. This stopped working, that stopped working. And then I dug a little further into some of these, and some people will use photos, right, in their reviews, and I would see, well, you've set it up on a carpeted area, and it says very clearly in the instructions it needs to be on a solid surface, not carpet. So okay, it stopped working. It's probably got all the carpet hair in it. It's got, exactly. So, and I oil mine and I clean it, and I mean,
you follow the directions.
I follow the directions. So if I only get a year out of it, well,
but that's about say $50 a month around. So remember I said about math, but the other thing in that is, a gym membership to a good gym would cost you that, or the effort to get there and the gas and all of it, right?
Exactly.
Like the thing is, you hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's like Supernatural, which I love. I started it in 2021 in January, so I am now 3 years in, and I still have the same headset, right? And they've just introduced another version, so I probably got another 2 or 3 years in this, because that's what they tend to do. But if you amortize out how you use it, if you truly use it, it's totally worth it. And it's a shame that they don't last longer.
Yeah.
But, I'm not quite sure I believe the things about the 50s where everything lasted forever. Because I think they used things that were bad for us too.
I don't know. Anything that was made in Harvest Gold or Avocado Green
seemed
to last forever, because it's like, it's the ugly, but you can't get rid of it because it's still working. So I don't know.
Maybe we should start wearing Harvest Green and avocado, whatever. Avocado Green and Harvest Gold.
You start.
I might have a Harvest Gold T-shirt, and I'm still not sure that color looks good on me, but it really matches a flower in a skirt. So I'll have to. But this is, and I didn't even mean to do this. So our friend Kaylee, who owns a clothing store, and is a stylist and is fabulous, and she is going to come on and give us some style tips every once in a while. But her and her husband are coming out here in February, for dinner and to stay over. And Kaylee said that if we each pick 10 items, she'll do a bit of a closet audit and we'll film it, we'll tape it, and then we can show you guys what she does. So what Kaylee does is you take out a bunch of stuff from your closet, and she'll go into people's full closets. My full closet would give her heart failure, but and then she'll say, hey, do you have this that would go with that, or do you have this, or that's really not good for your body type. So she's going to come and we're going to do that when they're here.
Oh, this
isn't that so exciting?
Great.
And you guys will love Kaylee.
Yeah, she is truly an adorable. When I first met
she's adorable, right?
She's adorable. She's absolutely adorable. And Ruth is always introduced. Oh, we've got these friends coming over. Why don't you guys? And I'm like, we're your friends. I don't want to meet your other friends. This is weird. This is like socializing. I don't want to
my worlds collide.
Her worlds collide. So I like, fine, I'll go over and meet your friends. And they're really, really pretty and beautiful. They're beautiful people. And I'm like, I don't want to meet beautiful people. They make me feel bad about myself. And then I meet them and they're these lovely, lovely people. And then I think, oh, I need to grow up. Shoot.
But Kaylee is one of those people, and so is her husband Jeff. I remember when, first of all, we met Jeff before. We were neighbors with Jeff before he met Kaylee, he had just gone through a divorce and stuff. And first I saw him, and it was like, look at how nice he is, and isn't he cute? And I should set him up with somebody, and I couldn't think of anybody. And then all of a sudden, Kaylee's in the picture, and I see her, and it's like, she's beautiful. She's gonna be a bitch. And she comes over, and Kaylee is like the most wonderful human.
She really is.
She's not a noodle. She doesn't take crap from people, but I've never heard her say a bad word about somebody.
Yeah.
What I've heard her say is, I think they were having a hard day.
Whoa.
Right? Like, or you know what, I'm going to give them some grace because I don't know what's going on in their life.
Okay, was it you or was it Jeff that said that she wakes up every morning
says
something like,
what a beautiful day.
Beautiful day.
And she throws open the curtains, and he's not a morning person, so I think he wants to kill her.
I think that is that is a kind of brain that I really admire. I would not be able to have her in my morning sphere. That would not work for me either. But I so love she is that way.
I'm mostly like that. The difference being is Kaylee is supermodel beautiful.
She is.
Right? Yeah. And also she moves with this grace. So one of her exercise routines, she does Cirque du Soleil, like high wire stuff, right? But it's like, but honestly, everything about her makes the mean girl in me, because there's one buried very deep, want to hate her, and you can't hate her. And what she's taught me is the other side of you can't judge a book by the cover.
Yeah.
Right? Is that I expected she would be a spoiled princess and got by on her looks all the time. And that is not. She is a hard worker. She is compassionate and caring. She checks in when she knows things are going on with you. And so when you guys meet her, you will love her. And she is so stinking stylish. So I'm excited for us to do the closet audit, because I'm really working hard, you guys, on cleaning out my closet. So I just saw this thing on social media, and it's called the 90-90 rule. If you haven't worn it in 90 days and you don't think you're going to wear it in the next 90 days, why do you have it?
No. Here's why. Because once a year, there's a party that involves a cowboy theme, and you need your hat and your boots. Okay. When we moved here, I did a huge purge of my life, and I got rid of the best cowboy hat, black leather, fantastic hat. Because I'm like, well, why would I keep this hat? It takes up space, and I'm going to a smaller house, blah, 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 all the things. I'm going to be really good. I'm going to purge things. Oh, I keep touching my mic. And then we come here. There's a autumn hoedown party where everybody's all Western. I'm like, damn it.
Okay, so you need to keep cowboy things and clown things and flamingo things.
Oh.
And but the other part is like, and I have some really nice clothes that I never wear, and I'm tired of them hanging there because they make my closet a pain in the neck, and it makes me feel bad every time I see them. And just because I like them doesn't mean they deserve to go to somebody who will wear them.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things I've learned is that there are some places, especially in their sort of transition houses, that will take clothing, right? And it's about people that are just getting back on their feet. So I'm going to do that more. But also, it's one of those where it's like, just because you like something doesn't mean it looks good on you.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Yeah,
Kaylee will help with that, because you do need. I mean, you and I are really good with each other, but I'm not going to make you sit here and go through my closet. You know what I mean?
You will go through your closet and then give all your clothes to me and say, hey, this would look really good on you. You should have this. And then now I have a problem with my closet.
That's fair.
But also, you have some really awesome
I do
clothes.
have some nice clothes.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's good that you get like all they need. You just want them to get worn.
Well, that's it. And I passed some of them on to my kids. And my kids are usually give me the old, Mom, nobody wants their mother's clothing. And I'm like, but this is from Ruth. And then she's like, nope, not helping.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Nobody wants the, the other generation's clothing.
But they have come around because I've given them stuff. I bought each of them a Vibe sweater for Christmas, and Vibe, what's it called? Their company? It's just called Vibe, or is it Vibe Online? Is how you get.
Yeah, if you Google Vibe clothing, it's a store in Nelson. We will put that. We will put the link in the show notes.
Yeah.
But it's fabulous. It's actually fabulous. This is from Vibe.
Oh, it is from Vibe. Yes, it is. Yep.
Right?
I'm not wearing any Vibe clothing today. Usually I am.
Yep. Because we shop there a lot.
We do. But I bought them all Vibe stuff, and they were like, oh, this is awesome. I bought them those Codigans.
Their Vibe has like, honestly, go see Vibe. And we will tag Vibe when we put this up.
Yeah.
Because A, they are great about customer service. They send you little candies in a bag when you buy something from them.
They really do, yeah.
And the sister store to Vibe, and it's actually the sister store. The owner of Vibe's sister owns a shoe store.
A couple of or is it right next door?
I don't know. It must be because it's in Nelson, block. BC, which is not a big place.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's quite close. And oh my goodness, they had these shoes and they're high heels. I don't wear high heels anymore. But they're like these rainbow high heels, and they just came out, and they're beautiful. But I'm getting to the point where so my sister has been really good about every time you buy something, they make something else, and you have to think about the environment, right? Yes. So if you really need something or want something, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you're just randomly purchasing because you're bored or it's 2 a.m. and you can't sleep and all the things, it's like you need to think it through, and that's been really good for me to think about because it's easy to go, oh, but I want it. And I do have things that's in my cupboard that I still have the tag on them, right? So it makes you more responsible when it's not about you, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Someone once told me that they only bought a thing if they were getting rid of another thing. So an equal thing. So if you buy a shirt,
something's got to go.
Get rid of another shirt
get
somewhere. That. And I think that's brilliant.
That may have been me, but that was when I was on the float home. When I was on the float, when I lived on a little float home, especially for household stuff, if I bought one thing in, and then when Paul moved in, he tried to make it 2 things had to go out. But when I bought something,
a person into that.
but my float home was like 800 square feet. It was big.
800 square feet is not big, my dear.
But it was just me and a dog, man.
But you're bringing another whole person with their whole life into that. Oh, that's if you start off and then move there together.
Seriously. He doesn't. His whole life is like half a closet.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually had a little bit of a issue with my husband this week because
he's a shopper.
He is the shopper. It's true. He is the shopper. But I have grown into my shopping persona, and I don't know.
It's not my fault.
It is absolutely her fault. I just needed a little encouragement. But I went to IKEA. And there had been several things on my list for since we moved here 4 years ago that I had been wanting to to set my office up. So I went there. I bought several of the things that there were shelves, corner shelves. There was one of them was this shoe cupboard thing that sits up against the wall, and it's a narrow little shelf. And these little drawers are so cute; they pop out. And then I brought it home and I was putting it together, and my husband looked at me and he said, "Where is that going?" And I said, well, I was thinking the bedroom because that's where I want to keep my stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's for I got all these flip-flops that I love them. I wear flip-flops all summer long and I have a lot of them and I just want them somewhere. And he's like, well, that wall won't work. Well, that wall won't work. Why don't you just get rid of some flip-flops? And I'm like, well, no, because I like them all. And anyway, it was a bit of a sore point. Ultimately, the piece of furniture got installed in our entranceway where I think it looks great. And I had actually seen one. The whole reason that I bought this thing was I'd seen it in someone else's place in their entrance. And it's just it's a nice, narrow little thing, perfect for throwing your keys on or gloves, and also popping shoes in if you want. And so that's where it is now. And we do not speak of it. So I think it's fine, but I have and so when we were, kind of going through this, he's like, your policy is never get rid of things, just add shelves. And
that's not a bad policy, I gotta say.
I love shelves, and I think every room should have bookshelves in them, because I don't have enough bookshelves. I just don't. And he's like, nope, just get rid of your books. And I'm like, no. So we have a bit of a difference that we work through. We've been married 35 years, so this isn't new information here, but this is one of those ongoing pop-up things that
but you guys are really good at working through the things, right?
Okay.
From the outside, just saying. Yeah. I mean, nobody knows everything, but I think
we are too.
You communicate.
We do. Yeah, we do. And there are things that are just style differences, right? Yeah. And so I was on a Zoom call with someone today, and she commented about my office. She said, "Oh, I love the background. I love your office." And my office is full of the things that bring me joy. So the back wall that you see behind the camera I've got some faux painting of wood on there. I've got shelves, a bunch of shelves up, lots of shelves because it's my office,
and lots of books.
Shelves I want, and it's got books, and it's got the day bed in there for anybody that comes over, and I've got plants in there a lot, so it's very pretty.
It's a happy place for you.
Yes, and that is what makes me happy. But that is not what makes him happy. So he needs straight, spare lines.
He's a minimalist.
Lines. He's a minimalist. So this is a style difference between the two of us.
And that's a pretty big style difference, right?
It is.
And you found a way, though.
Well, yeah. He would say that it is my house and he lives there. And he's not entirely wrong.
But also, I don't know that I agree, but I kind of like it. Like, I don't know enough about that part of your life, but I also think that a minimalist isn't going to be proactively designing and doing things.
Right.
And therefore, it's kind of up to you to walk the line.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's also not sentimental. Maybe he would argue with me about that, but I like to have things that remind me of things, right? Oh, there's a picture of my kids when they were in the hayloft at my mom and dad's place before they sold the farm. I want that picture up. Yeah. He'd be like, well, why do you have that? Why don't you put a current picture up? Well, I like the old one. Yeah. So he's very.
Wait, can I just? And I don't know if it's still up, but for a while, for his birthday one year, I gave him, he could request it. On-demand bagels, because I make bagels. And at one point he did say to me, I've got that pinned up to my bulletin board, right? It might be gone now.
I don't believe that he has a bulletin board.
Maybe it was JD. Because I also gave it to another friend.
You did. No, I don't.
I'm going to ask him tonight, and I will loop back to you guys.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, so I mean, I don't even remember how we got onto this topic, but
I know.
I think it was
decluttering,
purging and decluttering. Yeah. Yep. So I recognize that I have a tendency to hold on to things. That is a personality trait of mine. I will hold on, whether that is to things or to people. So when we dropped our youngest daughter off at university when she first left got her apartment and left there, I bawled the whole way home.
Oh,
I cried, like snot bawling, nasty crying. And it's from Vancouver, 90-minute drive. And my husband was just so mad at me. He's like, this is the start of our life, our empty nest life, and look at you. Oh. And I was like, you don't understand, this is my baby. But I like my things around me, and I like to be reminded of my things. It gives me comfort. Whereas that is just not how his brain works.
No, and but that's just it. So I got when we were in Paris, and then we went on safari in Kenya. A really, really good friend, Della, who came with us. Ooh. At one point, look at me, I just saved that from bubbling over.
Is that how it works?
Yes. But at one point she said, because I think we were going to this restaurant a lot, and we were leaving, and I was crying, and she was like, why the hell are you crying? Like, it's like, like it was a nice thing, but like, why are you crying? And then she said, "Ah, you collect strays." And
Oh,
and
yeah.
and I absolutely do, except what's the right way to explain this? So and she didn't say it in a negative way. Like it wasn't like, oh, you collect strays, but it was like, I make these connections, and it doesn't mean that we have to be best friends or close or anything, but we had a really nice connect. There was something that was great. And so I do. So I want to keep in touch with people, even if it's just like, hey, how are you? Hey, if you're ever in Vancouver, hey, we're coming back to Paris. We're gonna stay where we stayed. We're gonna come see you. And and that builds out to something magical, because I have people who I really care about all over the world who I probably haven't seen in 20 years, right? And but that's just it. Like sometimes I get it. Like there are travelers that go out and have these beautiful experiences with people, and then they go off and they don't even know each other's names, and they spend all night and they know their first names and nothing else. And it's like, I get that from a traveler, but for me it was like, this mattered, right? Like to the point that I'm on Instagram and I'm on WhatsApp with our guides and our trackers, right? From
That is
Kenya,
cool.
right? So the other day I made dawa. So I sent them
Yep,
all pictures
yep.
that I made it, and they were really proud of
She
me.
made dawa for me because I was sick.
She was sick, but it is, and dawa's in Swahili, that's medicine, but what it really is our version of hot
Hot
toddy,
toddy. Yeah.
right? But it's one of those where it's like, I understand, because there are things that are still, to me, like I have a hoodie that says Cabbage Town on it, that was my dad's from when I was young and he was moving, and it was like, I want that, right? And I had a complicated relationship with my dad. However, it still matters to me. That was where I grew up. It was his. And it's like, there's stuff you hold on to.
Yeah,
right?
because those are the good memories,
Yeah,
right? Those
yeah.
are the things that evoke a sense of safety or connection, and you
Yeah,
want to hang on to
and
that.
connection, and I think that's the word, right? And it's why connection is what we're all here for.
Yeah.
And however that manifests for you, right? Some of us need to touch things, right? Some of us get tattoos,
Yes.
right? But some of us, I mean, for the minimalists, I think they just have a different. They must hold things inside somewhere that we need the tactile feeling of it.
Or they are just dead inside.
Heartless. I don't think he's heartless, but I think we all have a different way of doing it, and this is a good one for you, for the crew to tell us, right? Like, tell us, are you someone who holds on to things? But then also, I like, seriously, sometimes I like open up something and I take out these concert stubs, and it's like, or I have, like, from when I was a journalist, I have press passes, right? Which I really liked having press passes, man. I really like that. But then you get there and it's like, yeah, this is really cool. But now if I put them up, and I don't honestly, I think when we left the float home, I got rid of them. But it's a great memory for me. But I wonder if it would feel braggy if somebody else saw them.
Oh, interesting. Well, and why would that matter?
A fair point.
If it brings you joy.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's in your office, like, who cares, right?
Yeah, no, and because I have all sorts of like articles I've written, I've framed and put in my office, and that is mostly a reminder to me that I actually can write. But the other side is, it's also a little nudge of like, you like travel writing. You like travel writing.
That's right. Well, it reminds us of who we are. Oh, identity.
That's good.
There it is. There's a good word.
Identity. I think that's really good.
And I wonder if,
but it would be good if either comment on Facebook, because I am now making notes, and I will ask questions on Facebook. But also, if you're watching this, send us an email at happy hour, spelled properly, at happy hour with 3 R's, .com, because that's an interesting, it's insight into a person, right? And I think it's, you see little kids that their parents keep their stuffies because it was the stuffy they carried around with them, right? Like, and I understand that, because there was this experience sometimes for years that this little stuffed animal was like comfort. It was it made them feel safe.
I have a stuffy from when I was really small, and it is in bad shape. It's in a box somewhere. It's not like I have it out, but. And when we moved, our kids were very specific about asking for okay, have you got this, this, and this? And, you know, because we're
Right.
downsizing, right? We're getting rid
Right.
of stuff. And I had to make sure I had this little purple teddy bear, this big white teddy bear. I had to make sure all the Playmobil was.
Is that what your kids asked?
Oh, yeah.
That you had it?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cute.
Oh, yeah. So I've got these, and they're.
She has good kids.
Yeah, we have pretty good kids. So our one daughter's in a space. They don't have a lot of space, so we've got all of the Playmobil, because our grandkids are not old enough to play with Playmobil. It's really tiny pieces, right? But our girls were huge collectors of it. Like, I'm talking, I have 3 really big, like, roll-out Rubbermaid containers with drawers that have all of the Playmobil collections in there. It's beyond me to know how they should be organized, if they should be organized, but we have them, and one day our girls will, you know,
have them for their kids.
That, right? We have that for that. But so I will tell you how we kind of resolved the issue, me and my husband. So he was annoyed with me, because, and I will give him, I will allow that. When I purchased that item, I knew that he would.
What item? The shoe item?
The shoe item, yeah, the shoe cupboard thing. I knew he would not love that, but I also was thinking, well, it's going into the bedroom. It's not like, you know,
right.
He has to see it. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It was going to be on my side. And he said to me, you knew that I wasn't going to like that, didn't you? And I said, well, okay, all right, fine. I did it. So it was not fair of me to do that. And so I recognized that was a little passive aggressive of me. So when he was saying,
did you really know?
Well, I knew that I wanted this thing. I knew that he has said many times, no more pieces of furniture. We have no more room for furniture in this house ever. Nothing, no furniture. And I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a hard line in the sand to take here. So I will take that under advisement and not bring another couch into the house. But but it's not a conversation I can have with him, because I would say, I think this is a useful thing that would add to the organization and whatever. And he would be like, nope, it's another piece of furniture. So I decided to make that decision without consulting him. And he was annoyed with that. And that is not a surprise. So his response was, you bring more organization in. Instead of getting rid of the stuff, you just find new ways to sort the stuff. Which is, he's not wrong about that.
Well, it's a fair point.
It's a fair point. But what he did, though, was he said, for instance, the linen closet upstairs, because I was telling him how, look, if I clear out this, then I've got room for the towels and the sheets over here, rather than being up there where I can't reach them. Anyway, so he says, problem, if I had to go with that linen closet, it would be organized and there would be room for everything.
There'd be 2 towels. Well,
so without, and I've organized everything in the house, right? Like, it's kind of, that's your. So he went into the linen closet without telling me, and he purged it, and there's nothing on the floor now, and there's a whole empty space there. And I said, so what did you do with that quilt that was there? And he's like, it's gone. And I said, but where is it? It's gone. So you know what? I know I have spare quilts for anyone who comes to stay. Probably had more spare quilts than I needed. So I have to give him that. I have to let him have that, because the closet looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic, and there's room for stuff now.
And we're self-admitted hard to let go of things, people.
I do not let go of things. So there was a great, I got to check to see if that's there. We had bought him years back. I bet you this is gone now. We had bought him one of those, he had a bout with sinus infections years and years ago. We bought him one of those face steamers, you lean over it and it steams up, and it's also good for your pores and all that stuff. I bet you he got rid of that. Well, no one ever uses it, so.
But that goes to it, right? Yeah. Like, and I think that's the thing is we have this mindset of I'd better keep it because, and honestly, to be fair, like the cowboy hat, stuff does come up. But I think we have to really say, do we actually truly need it?
Yeah.
Or is it a must have or nice to have?
Oh, must have or nice to have. Yeah, it's true.
And it is, but it kind of goes to on your sort of points you want to talk, but it kind of goes into the power of words, right?
Yeah.
Because I have to say, from my perspective, and we spend a lot of time with you guys, you guys are very good about communicating, and it doesn't always mean it's going to go the way you both want, right? But you are really good about finding common ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think that goes back to respect.
Yeah.
And that you've kind of laid out the ground rules for your relationship.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the power of words of, hey, I understand you're feeling this way about this.
Yeah.
Right. Like you both of you are very good at doing it. And I've heard Ray do it when we've been sitting around talking and somebody says something that's really important to them and personal. Mm-hmm. I've heard him say, thank you for sharing that.
Whoa.
Right. And as much as Ray is in our little group is the instigator of things, right?
Yeah.
And always he's really funny and always good natured, but he's the one, if he knows something is going to irritate you, he's going to poke you with it, right?
Boy, will he ever.
But he
threw me into the snow yesterday. Did you know that? He totally did. We're walking back to the house and he's behind me and all of a sudden biff right into the snowbank. So that's him.
But it is, and except when it really matters, like the other day, our old dog had a lump, and he immediately checked, and he talked to me with such empathy, because he I mean, we're really lucky these guys will check, so we don't have to go all the way into the vet and do things. But it was like, hey, this is okay, so here's what you do to check it and do all this, and it's just old dog lumps. Right, but it's
homeless, dear.
Old dog lumps. but it's a really good communication system that you have, at least from because I know when you're on the inside, it's different. Yeah. But it is, but that goes back to the way you speak to each other is respectful. You know what I mean? It's considerate.
Yeah, I think we've worked hard at doing that, and it. I mean, obviously, two people there will always be friction points because we're just different. And
that's really like that's long term. The only time you don't have friction is a freaking first date.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like that's just finding your way of true relationship. Well, you know what?
Most of us can't get along with ourselves for any length of time. So getting along with another person, it's a miracle that we can do it. And it's such a growth thing, right? And I've grown so much from having to be a strong, because he's a very strong personality. And so for me to learn to stand firm in what I believe and know when I can push and when I can't push, and what is worth fighting about.
Well, that's just
that was the question that I learned early on, was what is worth fighting about? Because I don't like conflict. I really don't. But there are some things like shoe cupboards that apparently are worth it.
Nope, that's a fair point. But it kind of does take us to one of the things you had that's really interesting to me is that one of your daughters.
Oh yes. So I had a video chat with one of my daughters, with our youngest daughter, last week. Just a lovely visit. She's just such a cool human being, and she was asking me what I was doing, and I mentioned our podcast, and she had watched an episode. Wow. And I said, oh, that's so cool. Like, I'm so glad you did that. And it's just a thing we're doing, keep my brain active. Going down this long, slow slide into the whatever. And she's like, Mom, stop doing that. She said, you do that all the time. You always trivialize or use self-deprecating humor to minimize your accomplishments. And what she said was, your brain and your body does not know when you're joking.
Yep, it's true.
So when you say something like, I have a bad memory. Oh, I can't remember what I had,
Yep.
That's what your brain believes.
That's what you're feeding your computer program.
Yep. And that is another lifelong journey for me, because I was trained very early on that pride is a very bad thing. So it's much better to talk down to yourself and about yourself than it is to talk up to and about yourself. So so I'm not good at it.
And it's a balance, right? So one of the things that I remember, and I'm trying to think where I got it, is probably a self-help book, because it might have been a therapist who said to me, also your brain doesn't know. So if you say, I'm not unhappy, your brain doesn't hear the not.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's as complex as it is, it's actually simple. So I used to say things, and I would say it quite often because because I worked at McLean's, and as soon as I'd walk in a room, it was like, oh, she's from McLean's. And honestly, and this is not me being self-deprecating. I was at McLean's because somebody saw something, and I walked in, and there were these brilliant people, and they were this brilliant, and I was like, and I learned so much from them. I'm not saying that I don't have talents, but I was like so far removed from some of these people. But people used to be like, let's have an intellectual conversation. And it was like, I've had 4 glasses of wine and haven't read the paper for like a week. And so I would be like, oh, my pea brain can't take that. And I had somebody say to me, quit doing that, because what your brain hears, what your psyche hears, is you're not smart enough.
Yeah.
And what you say to them is like, you know what, I'd rather have a drink and talk about you. Right. And switch it. And I think I think women do it a lot.
Women do it much more than men.
And sometimes it's disarming, but you have to be very careful that that's not. So I have a really good friend, Maurice, who does, and we will put this link in too. She was a communications person, and she does workshops, and she's got a series of books, and it's about how you talk to yourself.
Ooh.
And she is the most incredible human about reinventing herself, and she is interesting and lovely and amazing. And she took this on, it's probably been about a decade now, and she absolutely said that she would be, as a communications person, she would be in places, and there would be a senior VP of something who is typically a female, who would say things like, well, I'm not sure, but what about if we did this? And she said she heard these qualifiers all the time from women.
Yeah.
And she said she felt like she had to take this on, so we stopped doing that to ourselves, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. We'll have to get maybe Maurice to come as a guest.
Those qualifiers, that is a really brilliant thing, because that is very classic that women do that and men don't. Yep. Women will say things like, well, I'm not sure, but.
Yeah, let me just say this. Right. And I see it often in meetings too, is a woman puts something forward, but they do so meekly, and then a guy kind of repeats it about 2 seconds later.
Yep.
And everybody's like, that's a great idea.
Yep.
But it's not that the idea is different, it's how he said it.
That's exactly right. And it's with confidence, because people are attracted to what feels the strongest idea.
And like our brains take in, when I say, oh, I have a little pea brain, our brains also take in when somebody's like, well, I'm just spitballing here. Yes. Right? Immediately I go, so you haven't thought it through.
That's right.
Right? Like,
so I love that you said the double negative thing, because that is just like, it's a tiny little point, but that's just a classic automatic edit.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody says I'm not unhappy, unless it's in dialogue and somebody's making a point to say it that way. Yeah. Not unhappy, why not just say I'm happy?
Yeah. But that's just it, right?
Take away, they negate each other.
So if you speak, and I know sometimes Americans get a bad rap, but if you speak to an American and you say, how are you? They're like, I'm great. You know what Canadians say? Not bad. Right? And I really appreciate that we're kind of a lower key, not, that kind of thing. But the other thing is in this global climate, we're good.
Oh, we are really good.
Right? But I think that's just it. And it's how you say, so even when we do our grateful, so we do our gratefuls, and we say something that we appreciate that the other person did or is, and one of the things we have to say, and I get a gold star for X, and you have to say something that you did that wasn't just like, it's not necessarily like, well, I made dinner because Paul cleans up and I cook, but it's got to be like, hey, I went out of my comfort zone for this.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Kind of thing. Like, it's more about how we got better at things as opposed to, well, I did my chores.
Right.
But that's a really important thing, because both Paul and I are always like, oh, well, we're just the communicators, right? And him, because I think he's an extrovert, but he's he if there's a group of people, my husband will not be the one talking, right? Oh
yeah, he will definitely be in the group.
Yeah, but he's not necessarily the one.
That's true. But one-on-one, he's happy to.
Oh yeah, once he's safe.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So my husband used to be the guy who would he calls it the entertainer gene. And he has, he's the funny guy. That's there's
but
lots.
he's really, but
he is really funny. He's a very.
To be fair, you're just as funny in a different way. But and I think sometimes people miss that because he's quick, witty.
Yeah.
Whereas then all of a sudden you'll say something and it's like, that was the funniest thing tonight, except you said it quietly to the little group.
Yeah. And he has really, like, especially since, in the 4 years that we've lived here, in that time we had the pandemic, he made the decision during the pandemic that he needed to retire, or at least partially retire. And he, I think, realized that he had been using, like, that it was exhausting to him.
Yeah.
That doing that, carrying that persona, because that's how I know him. I'm used to that, and I love that. I mean, I am with him because he makes me laugh.
He's funny and he's charming.
Yep.
But
it's also, that can also.
But if that's how you get expected to be.
Right? Well, that's it. That's it, right? And so he kind of, when we moved here, I said, okay, things are going to be different now. This is a different stage of our life, and we need to change some things.
And you're going to be the funny one.
I'm going to be the funny one. But he kind of, I think, once he was able to relax work-wise, he kind of went, I don't have to be the funny one all the time. I don't have to be on, because there's a certain, and he would call it that, on, right? Like when he was seeing clients all the time, you have to be on when you're in the exam room with someone else in their pet, and he had to be in charge and empathetic and listening and always giving
and charming and right, like
and always in charge, always knowing the best thing with the answers, the guy with the answers. And then he was like, well, I'm done with that. I can't do that anymore. I don't want. And the funny guy, he'll always, his sense of humor is just,
he's funny. He's really funny.
But the need to be the entertainer of the group has changed, and I find that so fascinating, because we're so much more social here in this community than we were before.
Right.
But it's a different kind of socializing.
Right.
And he does not want to be that entertainer guy.
Right. Interesting. Hey?
Yeah. And he still is sometimes, because he can't help himself. But
because but it's different. Like, it's different when you do it because you choose to do it.
Yes.
And it's different. Like it's a bit like, for me, like cooking. I am happy to cook and do things for people the first time somebody expects it. Ooh. Right? And I don't mean expects it like, if you're going to come over here, I'm going to feed you. Like that should be an expectation.
Sometimes you don't even have to come over for her to feed you.
That's fair, because, guinea pig.
Yeah.
But there's we had one time, we had a bigger house and people used to come for the weekend. I remember getting a text from somebody who was coming, and it was like, hey, could you make this? And it was a thing that took days to make, right? And it was kind of like, last time you came, you didn't even bring a bottle of wine. So no, right? But that's how it fell into that, because I think it's a slippery slope. And I think probably Ray, where it was like, all of a sudden the party's dead, so everybody looked at Ray. Right? You know what I mean? And then it's a slippery slope when it's like, because you would always say, oh no, just come and bring yourself. And what a good adult does is like, I'm absolutely bringing wine, and I'm going to bring you this, and I'm going to bring, why don't you let me get breakfast?
It's one of those social lies that we tell. No, you don't have to bring it. Just, no, what we mean is, please come. And it would be very kind if you acknowledge the amount of work that goes into this with a bottle of wine or something.
But that's just it. And that's a token of appreciation. Mm-hmm. And then when it was, and I forget what the dish was, but I was a bit obsessed at some point with something. And
what a shock.
And it was one of those where I was like, oh, we're like a bed and breakfast where you never get a bill, right? But it kind of, in my mind, warped my natural instincts, because I like to feed people and get them things, and that's how I show love. And then it was like, oh my God, are you coming here because you like us, or because I cook well and it costs you nothing to come here?
Yeah.
Right. And it was one of those where it's like, it's still like, I still feel something in my heart when I think about that, because it was kind of like, wow, what am I to you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Like, because then something happens. And it's funny, because I was thinking about this today about for a thing. What are the social things that you do, because even if somebody says please don't bring anything, I always take a bottle of wine for them, and usually we would take like a little hostess gift, flowers, or maybe a little gifty thing that you had or something. So it's like, don't bring anything, but you're always going to take something. And then I was thinking, like, what's the social contract we have? Like, I remember when my dad passed away, people that really had been to my parents' cottage that knew him well, they didn't, like, it was a social media comment that he had passed away. They were like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, there wasn't flowers or anything. And not that you want the things,
right?
You want the acknowledgement that he mattered.
You want the expression,
right?
Yeah.
And that I'm in a place,
yeah,
right? And so it's like there's this social thing that sometimes I think maybe we're losing. And I don't know if my expectations are, because the other thing is, if I say, please don't bring anything, and they bring nothing, then that's on me.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's
like
true.
There's a thing,
true.
if I'm not direct about it, but if somebody said it to me, I would bring them something.
Right.
I wouldn't, if somebody said, if you said, hey, just come over because I'm making a Greek dinner, and anything I contributed would throw off the flow, right? That's different. But that wouldn't stop me from bringing you flowers or a book I knew you wanted, or a really nice bottle of wine.
You are the best gift giver that I know. You are.
That's awesome.
You really are. And
okay, you know why she says this? Because I gave her this stupid nose at Christmas where you can pick pimples.
Oh, that's not the best gift. She did. That was a great one. Oh, you've given, like, I have learned so much from you about just how to casually give gifts, because that was just kind of new to me. And I love it. Like, it's because you have fun doing it.
Oh, it makes me happy.
It is not an obligation. And that was kind of a switch for me to see that as, ooh, this is a fun way for me to show I'm not good at it. I'm not good at giving.
That's not true.
But I think I'm getting a little bit better, because that switch in thinking, in perspective about, like I learned in, editing and whatever, it's think about your audience. It's not about me. It's about you.
When you think about, like, if you can get somebody something, and we're going to bring your monkey for as a guest at some point.
Oh, yes.
But that's just a teaser. The monkey's a good story. We won't tell you this time. But if you see something in it, and that's why, like, I'm, as much as I don't like my birthday celebrated, I like celebrating other people's birthdays. Or when you see something that they would make them happy, right? And it's like, that's a little way, because I'm not always good at the going up and hugging people thing.
Yep.
As we all know. I'm like, yeah, don't touch me, man.
If I want to really freak her out, I'll come up and give her a hug.
Yeah. And then I don't talk to her for 3 days. But
and she's like, well, what? Why?
So when I was going to my dad was in the hospital, and it was pretty clear that he wasn't going to make it. I was going, and poor Paul, my husband, Roxanne came over to say goodbye and make sure I was okay. And he said, I saw it. You wanted to hug her. I saw it in your eyes. And she did. And poor part of it was like, what have I done to these people? That Roxanne's like, I don't know if I can hug her. And Paul's like, I don't know if she can hug her.
I don't know. But you got to read it. And...
Well, but I'm okay with people that I like hugging me. What I'm not okay is when random strangers do it.
Yeah. Hugging has become kind of devalued.
Well, COVID made
COVID was good.
All of that for that stuff.
So that was like, I grew up in a sort of a community that was a bit less touching, less physical, right? And then I found another when I was in college, Bible school.
Actually. So you're talking about like growing up as a young person?
Yeah, young person.
They're not touchy?
No.
Really?
Yeah, really. And then I kind of.
I'm sorry, they just want to control your life.
It was, it's not a very expressive kind of community, but
no, okay, that's fair, because we're talking evangelical, and I really am not being disrespectful, because I think it's good when people have a belief that works for them.
Yeah,
I have a belief. I have a problem when they try to make that belief work for me.
That's right. But then I met people who were about hugging, and I was like, ooh, this is kind of cool, and then I had kids, and of course I'm very physical with my kids. I always, in fact, I'm sure some of you have done this too, ending phone calls saying, bye, love you, to the guy who just,
they fixed your car,
fixed your lawn or your car, right? Because that's how you end stuff. I really want to be that way with my kids. So I'm very physical with my kids, but but that was a learned behavior for me, right? And then COVID, of course, was, oh, better not do that. So, and I kind of like learning that balance, right?
Right.
Where is it right? I'm very comfortable with hugging, but not with you, man. I'm over it.
When we need to, we hug. And we show our affection in other ways. But and you know what? I've always tried to figure it out because we weren't necessarily a huggy family. And I'm pretty sure I'll have to ask my sister if she's a hugger. But I also think like we weren't we weren't outwardly expressive as a family. Like honestly, including like the crap we put under the rug, right? Like we
could
were
partially be a generational thing.
It
right?
could be, but so my friend Tammy that I actually met online in some group, even I think it was even pre-Facebook, honestly, it was some like freaking chat group. But my friend Tammy, who lives in Kentucky, taught me that saying I loved you to somebody is not a lifetime commitment. You can say I love you, and it can mean many things. So for me, it was like she like we used to talk a lot more on the phone, and I'm really not a phone person now. We chat on Facebook, but she ends everything with "I love you, sweet pea." She calls me sweet pea, and when she first did it, it was like I don't know what to do with this, right? Because that was something really special and secret, and the fact is, it is really special.
Yeah.
But it's not sacred. You should be able to say.
Yeah.
You can have momentary feelings of love.
Yeah.
And the more we can love it,
yeah.
whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a freaking lifetime commitment to say I love you.
You are really good at that, and it's some. Every now and then, you know, you'll send me a message and you'll say,
"Oh, do you know how much I love you?"
Yes, and I'm like, I don't know what to say to that, but I love it. Like it's so lovely because that's putting this energy into the world that is so positive and so kind and so wonderful. And why is more of that? Why would that be a bad thing? How can that be a bad thing?
And we shouldn't be afraid of it. And I was like when I was afraid of that word. And Tammy taught me that it's you want to be absolutely respectful about the word. Like I'm not gonna say I love you to a client, but you know, but it's a word that deserves to be spread everywhere because there's so much other stuff out there right now that the more you can say to somebody, I love that about you. Or and you, I truly love you. Look at how I'm not looking at her when I say it, so it doesn't freak anybody out, including me. But to be able to say, you matter in my life, because I think in our generation, love was reserved for immediate family, the person you marry, right? There's this thing, and freaking Tammy runs around like throwing it around like confetti, and it's like that's the better way. Right? Because sometimes if you say something like that to somebody, it might turn their day from something that was really awful. Right. And not that that's why you do it, but you just don't know that just having somebody say, well, somebody out there loves me, right? In whatever frame that is, right? Is like, I can love you and not be willing to sign my house over to you, right?
Dang.
Okay, we got, where are we now? We're at an hour and we're getting some feedback that we're kind of long, but let's go. I want to hear about how to keep time the Atlantic.
Oh, okay. So I was listening to a podcast this week, and The Atlantic does some great podcasts. They have one called How to Talk to People. Wow. Like I love that. I listened to that one for a while. This one this week was called How to Keep Time or How to Stop Time?
How to keep time.
How to Keep Time. And The Atlantic, where are my glasses? So this particular one, it made me laugh because they were talking about, they had a guest on, and they were talking about work-life balance, and it was really interesting. It was, going to how can we manage? We can only go one direction in time. In space, we can go in many directions, but in time, there's only one. And when we're at work, how can we find better ways to manage that time, have have less of whatever it is that we don't like and more of what we do like. So this guest was suggesting, I really had to laugh at this. His suggestions was take a reading break. If you don't have enough time to read, if you're a person who likes to read, but you're too tired when you get home from work, take 10 minutes out of every hour, bring your book to work and take 10 minutes out of every hour to read. All right. And there are,
okay, wait, I have something to say to that. So I used to have a friend, actually Maurice's, when she was in communications, her business partner would get up in the morning and have a really nice long bath and read a book and stuff. And Maurice was like, I'm up at 7 a.m. and I'm at work because I want to finish at 3, which is how I see the thing. So it's like, I'd rather power through and be done at 2 or 3.
Right.
But so that's interesting to me because 10 minutes?
I know, 10 minutes, I can't get into a book. Well, and the other suggestion was if you've got a lunch, you're a worker, you've got a lunch break coming up, well, why don't you eat at your lunch at your desk? And then when your lunch break comes, you can go and work out or something. And my immediate thought, having been a small business owner for our entire marriage, was, wow, that's a great way to get fired.
Yeah.
Because and so maybe that's, so I don't remember if that guest was from maybe outside of North America, because we have a work, I'm looking for a word.
Ethic process?
Yes, a work ethic that is maybe a little bit harsher or more stringent than other parts of the world.
Right.
So maybe there's things we can learn about that. But I will say, from the viewpoint of a small business owner, that is not going to fly. So, but that just made me laugh.
Wait, so I have to tell you. So, and I will have to tag her when we post this. When I was at McLean's, I worked with a woman named Cindy, and her nickname was Bear because it was her last name. But what her and I used to do is at lunchtime we would go and get French fries and gravy and get our books, and we would sit together, right, at my desk or her desk, and we would sit there and we would eat lunch and read our books, and we wouldn't even talk to each other. Like, it would be like, hey, how's it going? Who's going for lunch today? And one of us would go get the thing, and then we would sit there and we would read our books together while we were sitting there.
Perfect lunch.
Oh my God, it was so awesome. I will have to tag her and see if she remembers that, because that's one of the biggest. There are lots of really cool things that happened to me when I was at McLean's. That is one of the best memories I have.
Wow. I love that.
Right. So there's lots you can do that brings a little bit of joy to your wrist. So I do get it. Like, I get up really early in the morning and I go on to make sure the world hasn't collapsed for a client. And then I go to Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all the things. But for me, it's more, that's not work, although it is kind of work.
It's work.
Right. And I check all of I want to see what New York Times is saying. I want to see the Globe and Mail say. I want to see what the Vancouver Sun, like, I want to see all the stuff. Right. But also, that's the part of my job. I love 90% of my job.
Okay.
Right. And that's the part I like. But the other side is, if it was like, okay, go read your book at 4 a.m., Ruth. And it was like, no, because then my day's messed.
Yeah.
Although I do read at lunch when we sit and have lunch. Paul watches a sitcom or something.
Oh, wow.
And I read.
Okay.
Right. So there's ways there, like, I get it. And we all work. North America has made us think work is the God, and that's not true. Yeah,
that's very true. And the whole 8 hour, I mean, that's never been the way my husband and I have worked, because, we've had veterinary practice, and it's been, initially it was, well, you're going to work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
If that's,
you're going to work for what it does.
What you have to do. And for me, managing HR would most of the time just doing payroll and simple stuff. But then as soon as there was some kind of conflict, I would be on for like hours at a stretch, meetings, and then dealing with somebody and talking to employment, all the things. But
even now, you do it in your fiction writing world too, is like, when you have a deadline, you're like, right on it. Right.
And I like that rhythm. That, for me, that rhythm works. It's my daughter would say I'm probably trivializing things, but I think that it's kind of common in creative minds to have a bit of attention deficit disorder. For me, when I get deep into a project, I go all in, I stay in, and then I'm done. And then I literally forget about it. I was talking with somebody about my some of the books that I wrote about 5 years ago. I can't remember them. It's 5
Right.
years ago.
You've gone on to other
I've
things.
gone on to other things. So for me to have that rhythm is really, it's not sustainable in the long run by any means. Last year when we were working on the commission report, wow, those were long days.
Yeah.
Not sustainable. But during
Not
that,
sustainable like for 5 years,
no,
but sustainable for 3 months. So
absolutely.
So which allows us, I have to say, to not have to think about traditional retirement.
Yeah.
Because you get these projects, and we're having one coming in. Well, by the way, it's delayed
Okay.
until next week.
Thank you.
But you have it where it's like you work really hard for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long, it's a few hours a day,
Yeah.
right? And that's and I'd rather work like that, because if I'm immersed, I'm immersed. And that, but others, like there are others in the world that prefer I'm going to get up and I'm going to have my breakfast, and especially if you have young children, I'm going to hang out with my kids, which you should.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go and I'm going to, do this structured thing.
Yeah.
I've never been able to do a structured thing. I'd rather, because there are some times when I get up at 2 a.m. and I'm right at work.
Yeah.
Right. With a deadline. But then like.
Oh, I'm so anti. We chose to homeschool our kids so that I didn't have to be a slave to the school system.
Yeah.
I am, again, trivializing it. Lots of reasons for doing it, but part of that whole idea of this is a arbitrary time frame that we're going to impose upon your life and say that this is the right way to do things. Well, actually, it didn't work for our kids. So
but it goes back to what we started about, the trying to put a round peg into a square hole, right? Is that kind, like the school learning part doesn't work for everybody these days, right?
And I mean, anywhere, that doesn't have to happen in a school,
right? Yeah. But that's just it. And I mean, I still think like those basics, like reading, writing, math, all those things, I think they're really important for people to learn.
Absolutely.
But I also don't necessarily think, like, honestly, again, it goes back to science. If I had realized science could be as interesting as our biotech company or as cooking, I would have paid attention. I'm not sure we apply it right, but the world is different and we're starting to recognize it.
Yeah.
Right. And the same as it makes me think a little bit about our podcast, and we're not there yet because, we're still figuring it out, but like making it more accessible, maybe doing closed caption, right? And things like that. I mean, and we will get there, but I think the more the world becomes inclusive about how everybody does stuff differently, and if that's the message we all take away from today, then I think that's a pretty good podcast.
Yep.
Okay, so what are we grateful for this week, Roxanne?
Oh, I'm grateful for Zoom, just off the top of my head, because I had a couple of great meetings by Zoom today, and for some reason I can't figure out Teams. So
because Teams sucks.
Okay, I would agree, but I have to say I don't understand it, so I don't know if it's Teams' fault or my fault.
No, it's Teams' fault.
But I'm very grateful because I think I figured out Zoom, and that's enabled me to communicate with people that are way far away from me, and we made it work.
See, that's a good thing, right?
I feel smart, SMRT right now.
You're funny. I think I'm grateful that we live close next door to each other, because there would be no podcast, because it's icy and awful out. And so I'm grateful.
Yep. Yesterday, the day before, when the snow was coming down, my priority was to make sure that the little walkway between our houses was clear, so that at least we could get to each other,
which is really sweet. So she tells me that, and then I go out through the snow with my dogs, because it was like, she told me, and I was like, oh, that's so nice, she shoveled out back. And then I was like, but I'm going up front and I'm going to die.
I did not do the front.
No, but my husband did the front, because, we have a separation of chores. And, my chore will be, once we do this, we're having a little thing here tonight with the four of us. And my chore will be to get things cooking.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
My husband, it was always my chore, at least half of it, probably more, to shovel in our other house. And we had the longest driveway on the street in our other house.
And they have the longest driveway here too.
The longest driveway in the whole community here. But now he's like, oh, all the shoveling. And he's up before me. So he did the shoveling. I'm perfectly happy to do the shoveling, but I'm still not getting up early to do it. So what's he doing? He's ordering a snowblower. He's like, this shoveling, that's for the birds, man.
Boys.
Okay,
on that note, we're going to say goodnight. And what do we want? We want more happy hours
and less bullshit.
Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.